Good evening. Welcome to Investigator News, and I'm your host, Ellie Holder. This is Investigative News and World News. And tonight, boy, get you a drink, have a seat, subscribe, subscribe to our show. You know, there's the law, something called the Code of Conduct for United States judges. Did you know that it exists? They have a code of conduct. They have them for lawyers, they have them for doctors, they have them for all professions. Senate, Congress, they all swear in, and they are compelled to comply with. Um, so there is a judge, Tanya Tutkin, is unqualified as a federal judge. What about, I mean, she is the judge that's handling January 6th case, but what about Fanni Willis? This applies to her too. It is so known to us that there are foundations and other people and other very wealthy millionaires that'll pay these professions to do what they say. The Code of Conduct for the United States judges, this isn't optional. This isn't just for one, it doesn't change judge to judge. The judge must follow, and I want to read some of it to you. And this is a canon one. An independent and honorable judiciary is indispensable to the justice in our society. A judge should maintain, enforce high stages of conduct and should personally observe those standards so that integrity and independence of the judiciary may be preserved. The provision of this code should be construed and applied to further that objective difference to the judgment and rulings of its courts. It depends on the public confidence in their integrity and the independence of the judges. The integrity and independence of the judges depends in turn on their acting without fear or favor or paid, although judges should be independent. They must comply with the law and should comply with this code of adherence to the responsibility that helps maintain public confidence. Impartiality of the judiciary, conversely, violation of this code diminishes the public confidence in the judiciary and injuries of our system and government under the law. The canons are the rules of reason. They should be implied, and they should be applied consistently with our Constitution, a requirement statutes, other court rules, and decisional law, and in context of all relevant circumstances. The code is not to be construed, so it does not impinge on the essential independence of judges that make judicial decisions. Now, it goes on the reading of the relevant sections. This is Canon 2. A judge must expect to be subject to constant public scrutiny, except freely and willy restrictions that might be viewed as burdensome. And this is by the ordinary citizens because it is not practical. To list all prohibited acts and the prohibition is necessarily general terms that extend a conduct by judges that is harmful, although specifically mentioned in the code. Actual improprieties under this standard include violation of law, court rules, or other specific provisions of this code. And it goes on in 103A3. A duty under the canon to act under the manner that promotes public confidence. Partiality of judiciary applies to all the judges' activities, including discharge of the judges' administration responsibilities. The duty to be respectful includes the responsibility to avoid a comment or a behavior that reasonably could be interpreted as harassment prejudicial prejudice or harassment prejudice or bias. The Code of Conduct for the United States judges now lets it apply in realclear.com. The date trial for January 6th case, as she writes, in part, having gone through thousands of this judge's decision with respect to the defendants as well as the case involving Trump, she says that has routinely issued politically charged rulings. Now, you have to really look into the canon and listen to what I said before, because she can't have they're independent. How many times it say independent, independent, independence? You can't be one side or the other. And that's what we expect when we go into a court of law. Can you imagine going into a court where the judge has been paid by the person you're trying to sue, and lots of money you don't possibly have to make a decision in their favor? Mainly at the U.S. Capitol, review of thousands of pages of the hearing transcripts, which there's thousands, has repeatedly expressed strong and settled opinions about the issues at the heart of Trump. The criminal case she's now presiding include her public assertions. And she is described, January 6th, as a mob attack on the very foundation of our democracy, even though they walked through peacefully. No one yelled, no one chanted. They just ran around with their cell phones taking pictures. No one sat in offices and protest. No one stayed. Now, Fur Boy did put his feet on the desk and look at Nancy Pelosi's computer. Now, she described January 6th as a mob attack on our very foundation of our democracy and branded the issue at heart in the case she's hearing. So it raises questions about her impartiality. And now, this is where I insert Fanni Willis and handling the case against presumptive GOP nominee. The U.S. code that addresses grounds for recusal states that the justice judge or magistrate judge of the United States shall disqualify himself in any proceedings that he or she will either take politically or impartiality. It might be reasonable question one to recuse if the judge has demonstrated personal bias, prejudice concerning the party or political parties. So what's that tell you, folks? And not just for this January 6th judge, but for Fanni Willis. We're seeing more and more judges that just to start off, they hate Trump. And then all of a sudden they bring politics in. And when he brings in a few lines that are political, it's held against him. So we are now looking at these two judges that are, over January 6th. Now, remember what I said about, it was they claimed it wasn't peaceful, that they were running through the halls. They got in. Now what I see is, they got in and they walked around, but no one stuck in a certain office and did this. This was McCarthy's office. Now they sat in there, refused to leave. They had to be drug out of the Capitol. Now it wasn't just this. They were blocking the doors. They weren't letting aides in. My Capitol friends told me that they were getting hostile. They were screaming in the faces of his aides, his employees. Is this a new resurrect? I'm sorry. Is this another January 6th, but in an office? They did tear things up a little bit. It wasn't neat and tidy when they left. And I watched it and I thought, what the heck? Why aren't they in prison? Why aren't they in jail? They were threatening uh, uh, the Speaker of the House. Now, when that happened to Nancy Pelosi and Furboy stuck his feet up on the desk it was just him, Capitol Police. He looked at her laptop and he wasn't chanting, he wasn't yelling, he wasn't getting in their face. But he's going to spend a very long time in prison. And Karen, who opened the Capitol doors? But Capitol Police. And they were unlocked. A lot of people just walked in and they were roaming around with cell phones taking selfies. They didn't do this. More and more, we're starting to see these blockades. More and more, we're starting to see them block highways. Remember the one for the Burning Man, I think they blocked? And what happened? Tribal police came and ran over their stuff, moved them out of the way, said, no, you're not going to do this. It's about time we stand up and have our police departments start standing up and mowing them over, saying, you're not going to do this crap. Because if we were to do this to the Democrats, if we were to do this to any, who cares? Democrats or GOP, it both should be equally wrong. Equally wrong. Yeah. There was an indication something was amiss on the Wizz Air flight, a W49 4452 from Tel Aviv to London Monday. There was a passenger that decided to walk back and forth the length of the plane, also trying to get into the cockpit and running to the rear of the exit, acting like he was going to open the doors, yelling Allah Akbar. They said it was a very scary situation. Allahu Akbar. Now, there's a lot more that can go with that, and this is what he was saying. But when they chant this, it's my God is not your God. That flight made an unscheduled but safe landing in Belgrade. So, is this the start again of what we're seeing with extreme Muslims or Islamics that's going to jump on planes once again? We have not seen a lot of hijacked planes in a while. We see them shot down or mechanical issues, but for a few decades, we really haven't seen a rash of Islamic Muslims jumping on planes and trying to hijack them. Well, now here we go. Is this a start to what we could be seeing in the future? And when we take a look at Allah Akbar, they are starting to chant again. And this isn't happening just over here. We're seeing a lot of them in countries that they're now saying that before they behead innocent victims. Now, why is China's military targeting American troops, veterans for exploitation campaign? This is now starting to come out. U.S. service members as a part of an exploitation campaign to fill the gaps in its military capabilities. And this comes from a top general. And this, it was an Air Force memo authorized by General Charles O. Q. Brown and distributed on Friday. The Air Force official confirmed that the Chinese military is pushing international firms that do business with the PRC to target and recruit U.S. and NATO trained military talent across um, the specialties and career fields by essentially training the trainer many of those who accept contracts with these foreign companies. And they want to erode our national security, putting the very safety in their fellow service members that could be at risk. So, how many veterans would fall for thousands of dollars from China to help them out a little bit? This is starting to happen across the United States as we see thousands of spies going over our border now. And now we're finding out they're recruiting, they're going after the veterans. And we have demonized our veterans as terrorists or someone that could possibly hurt or go on a shooting spree. And that's far from the truth. How many veterans have we seen that are doing school shootings? Not many. But they are listing them as terrorists. Why? Because, oh boy, I wish William was in here because he'd tell you. Maybe we'll talk about this tomorrow. That they demonize our veterans because they have been trained for war. And now this is who China wants. China wants them as spies. They want them as maybe a to help train their own in our own country. That's getting scary right there. Now, yeah, I know I tell you guys, we got Eva Bartlett and a few others that tell us about what's going on in the war in Ukraine. Well, now even the mainstream media is starting to admit that, well, maybe Ukraine isn't as good as we thought. Now, over the weekend, I watched some videos from Eva's channel that was showing a soldier talking about it. And they say, once they start shooting at a group, they run. Once they start losing, they run. They take their guns, they leave their ammunition, they'll even leave tanks and clothing and food, which makes the Russians happy. But why? Because why? And why would they run? You got to realize that these are Ukrainians that are just regular people. They're not military people. They're not militarily trained. And they said Poland and Germany, hey, we need the men down here. You got to send them down or they go to prison. Well, they did that, and a few days later, they said the same thing about the women. What about their kids? Wow. So it's a good thing that it's now the U.S. intel officials are now starting to say they believe that Putin um, is basically, and even though the tensions are high, he's still wanting to de-escalate the war. But as he said, as he looks to see Zelensky with United States military equipment, that he can only just match it and keep going. And I know they had a vote. I'm not sure how the vote turned out. If anybody knows how their vote turned out over there in Donbass, I believe, let me know. I forgot to look that up today. But the media is misleading Americans about the Ukraine's battlefield. The success isn't happening. Why do you think we keep giving them more? And how much they say has Biden actually given them? Well, they're starting to turn over some of the numbers. 100 billion, folks. 100 billion. Why? What is the obsession that this administration has that they must save Ukraine, a country that is more corrupt than Colombia and the cocoa plants, way more corrupt. Why would we save a corrupt country with $100 billion? Why? Because we want to take Russia down? It's not even phasing them yet. Wait till they pull out the big guns. Yeah, wait till they pull out those big guns. Then we have Kim Jong Un. We know he's over there talking to Putin, and they're, you scratch my back, I'll scratch yours. You give me this, I'll give you that. That's all it is. It's not this cozy, they're going to be best buddies. Kim Jong Un and Putin both don't have best buddies. It's strictly a strategic military um, discussion of what I'll give you this if you'll give me that. But North Korea says its latest submarine can launch nuclear weapons. Now, there is doubt about this, but as Kim Jong Un goes to Russia, and his announcements before he left, with his sister backing him, and we know she's mean. And now his daughter's growing up to be like his sister. North Korean Central News said the vessel named Hero Kim Kun-ok is designed to launch tactical nuclear weapons from underwater. There's no information or intel on how many nukes it can carry. We just know it's in the waters. Now, we have got, not only does Kim Jong Un got these really powerful submarines, but so does China. So do we. So does Russia. And it seems like as we go on, they're building bigger and better submarines to be able to hide themselves in the deep seas. Wow. Now, Karen mentioned this one in last show. Um, Biden deal announced on 9/11, the Islamic country is receiving $6 billion in funds. Why would he do that, folks? I can go on. I could read his reasoning for this. Secretary of State Anthony Blinken told Congress Monday about his approval to transfer $6 billion in funds to Iran for 5 Americans being held captive. Now, I can understand the whole, but he could have waited. He could have waited. He could have done this in a few weeks. He could have done this a few weeks back. Now, the problem I have with this is we have been giving Iran 5 and 6 million to starting under Obama for basically treaties and different things that we were working with Iran on. Now, the people aren't so bad, folks. I just want to say that the people over in Iran, Pakistan, Afghanistan, they're some very nice people. But you're only putting their lives in danger, not only theirs, but ours, giving them money. And you know what they're going to do with it? It's going to all go into their nuclear program. And who do they want to hit? Israel. And I've seen a lot of videos where people have went over and talked to the actual people in Iran. They don't want this. They said, once the missiles start, they're gone. They realize this. But for him to decide to, on the 22nd anniversary of 9/11, to hand over $6 billion in restricted Iranian funds held in South Korea to restricted accounts in Qatar, where the funds will be available for humanitarian aid and humanitarian trade. Blinken wrote in the notification to Congress. Of course, the Democrats are going to love this idea. But how long have these prisoners been there? And couldn't we come up with something else? Yeah. You remember the 103 House Democrats? Um, well, no, it was 50. I'm sorry, 50 that wrote that letter during the last election. Well, now we're starting to see that um, that now 103 House Democrats call out, and this could be a good thing, Biden in official letter. More than 100 House Democrats are urging President Peters, yeah, to provide more privileges to illegal immigrants. Now, and why do I bring up the 50? Because they're now being investigated, folks, quietly. And when the same time that this happened, once the investigation or inquiry into what actually happened with those that signed that letter for Joe Biden, well, all of a sudden, 103 Democrats decided Homeland Security Mayorkas um, needs to provide more privileges to illegal aliens, and they should put it in the next budget. Are they going to sneak it in? Folks, when they do a budget, and we have Miss Green that's saying, you know what, we're going to hold the budget until you guys decide that we're going to look into the Biden inquiry. And folks, realize that this isn't an impeachment. It's an inquiry. And what does that do? It gives them the right to make the Department of Justice, the Department of Defense, FBI, CIA, NSA, all of them, to turn over everything they have on Joe Biden and Hunter Biden. And then once they get it all together and get enough, then they can move forward to the impeachment. Don't get all excited yet. This is an inquiry. I mean, this could be it could take a year. And stupid MSNBC, they get on there today and they say, um, uh, how this is unconstitutional that they're doing this, and that this has never ever been done, and that how dare them want to hold the budget to get their way. Well, you know what they would do. I mean, how much did Nancy Pelosi kick and scream on her drunk days? Yeah, 5 times. 5 times Nancy Pelosi got removed from the Capitol for being drunk in the last 2, 3 years. It, yeah. The administration could assist asylum seekers in their communities by increasing the use of parole and decreasing the regulatory 150-day wait. Now, what I was like, well, the 150-day wait period for asylum seekers, so they can apply for work authorization, didn't bug me. What got me was increasing the use of parole. Who are they letting out? I mean, they're increasing it, right? But at the same time, if they have got people in prisons that are could be a danger to our national security, think of how many are getting over our borders. That's what's scary. They may be increasing the use of parole and decreasing the regulatory 150-day wait period, but there's little bylaws in all of these laws. You can have a law, folks, and underneath it you can have statutes that go with it. Where are the statutes? What are the statutes? Why are the statutes there? And who did it? And that's what the GOP is looking at with Mayorkas. And they're asking him these questions. And he just sits there like, I don't know. I don't know. Then in this next election, the administration has got to have someone very strong on that border. Very strong. Because we're now, if we got thousands of Chinese spies coming over our border, we got MS-13. We got ISIS. We got, they talk about the KKK. White Aryans are just open arms to these kind of people. The White Aryans bigger and stronger than they've been since Martin Luther King. Wow, that's something to think about. When you can almost say, I knew this was going to happen type of thing. And what a shame it is when the second in command, we're talking our vice president, giggles and cackles on camera while supposedly preparing to mark one of the darkest days in our history. It's bad enough that Biden snubbed the Monday's 9/11. According to Newsweek, it was the first time since 2002 that a sitting president did not attend the memorial of these attacks. But when we have a vice president that's laughing and cackling about it, shame on you. How disturbing to see our clueless vice president and other characters smiling during the memorial, that the event that shook this great nation. They just take it lightheartedly, folks. As we're all grieving, because this means something to all of us. It's like the Challenger. When the Challenger exploded, folks, are we giggling about it now still? We laughing about it and think it's funny? Because how many people did that make you either bring you to your knees or make you stand up and go, oh my God? Same way with 9/11. There's been times in our history that it has just been horrific. And over and over and over again, and I may piss off the Democrat Party that watches, or someone that's a Democrat and thinking about watching us, but it's time to quit laughing at this stuff. This is just sick. And realize your party is doing this. So she was laughing and cackling about it and giggling with her little buddies off to the side. You know what I have to say, Karen? I want to know how much pot she smoked before she decided to giggle about it. We know she smokes marijuana. She's a big supporter of it. She did it when we knew about it when she was senator of California. Big thing. So did she smoke a bunch and then get the giggles? I don't know. Maybe we need to start testing her to see what she's doing and what kind of drugs she has in her system. Now, James Comer, he's the one trying to get all this stuff together, and he's got quite a bit, him and Grassi. And as we look at the Oversight Committee, they're seeking answers from the State Department and on then Vice President Biden's Ukrainian involvement. Because what he's doing with China now, we have to go back. We have to go back during his whole career to find out exactly how much money he's made. A lot of people say, well, there's statute of limitations in there. But as a senator or a congressman, they, like I told you at the beginning of the show, there's an oath they take. It's to make our country the best, to protect our country, to protect our national security. And it is very right for Comer and Grassi, with the oversight, the House Oversight Committee, to take a look at not only the State Department, but all of the branches, to see what they know and what they have on Biden, even when he was a vice president, and even looking into when he was a senator. How much are we going to find out about Joe Biden? And this is why the inquiry is so important, is it gives James Comer the opportunity to look into the DOJ and say, turn this over. Now, and then again, MSNBC said today, well, if Comer asks a foreign country, we don't know how long it's going to take to get to them the information or the intel. That's not what this is about. Don't fall for that. Don't fall for that crap. The Department of Justice, the FBI, CIA, they've got all the info. They're just now have to get rid of it. You don't think that they haven't gotten it and either hushed or put it out as there's nothing to see here, ignored? Folks, I so want to put all the Democrats in a few states and separate from them. It's 50-50, 50-50. We keep hearing 50-50, 50-50. And we're butting heads in Congress and Senate. How do we fix this problem? The only way the GOP knows how to fix this is to bring the whole everything to the forefront of the American people. Will they all listen? Or will only 50% listen? This is sad. And and then, when we take a look at the Democrats taking charge and the Warrant Commission, and they all looked into JFK. And now, an 88-year-old whistleblower that was Secret Service, that was standing on the back of the car, disputes. And it's now been proven with that magic bullet. How can one bullet, folks, I shoot guns. How can one bullet go through Kennedy, all the way through, go through a seat, go through the back of the senator, go through his hand, his thigh, and all this, and then land on the floor and it looks great? How's that happen? I shot a lot of bullets, and even going through a watermelon, there's damage. It don't go through 50 watermelons and come out looking good. And not only that, but they found 2 bullets there in the pictures. I'm going to see if I can get some of these pictures. There's pictures of 2 bullets laying in the back seat when they removed Kennedy. And he's exposed. And now we know that magic bullet isn't magic. There was more than what we've been told. And now he's going to come out, and I think it's because he's at the end of his days. Why not talk? He's to him, if they kill him, they kill him. But at least he can get the information out of what he's seen. And I want to remind you that JFK, Robert Kennedy, Martin Luther King Jr., all 3 of them were going to change parties and stop the Bay of Pigs. And, I hear a lot of them say, well, he was a Democrat and he was going to go be all for it and he was going to do everything that he could as a Democrat. No, he wasn't. He was switching parties due to the corruption. Not only the corruption, but what he found out with Martin Luther King about the KKK in the South. It's sad when Martin Luther King calls up from a church begging Robert Kennedy, do something. They're fixing to burn us down in this church. And lo and behold, it was the post office that saved the day. And the post office got between the Democrat KKK, and they were Democrats, and saved Martin Luther King. I love that story. Evita King tells it every so often. And I don't tell it as good as she does. But people need to know about this. Why are we losing our history? Why aren't we being told the truth? Why aren't we being told the truth about the Democrat Party? Start looking into it, folks, because it's something we need to know, we need to preserve, and our children need to know. Look it up. Tell your children, tell your grandchildren. And even African Americans, I see it all the time on YouTube where they're going, wow, I didn't know that. I didn't know that. I didn't know that. How come we weren't told about this? Just on slavery. They're going on reparations of 1619. How do they, you know what, and I'm not to be mean, folks, and I don't want to go up and be mean to the African Americans with 1619. But how do you know what your great, 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 great grandfather went through? Do they have records? Do they have something in the Bible? Do they have a story? Because not all the slaves were treated so badly. I think we need to take a good, fresh look at our history and find out the truth. Because not only the Democrats, but the Republicans, Independents, all of them, the Whigs, they all lied. And until we get the truth, how do we really know what America's all about? All right, I didn't mean to get that far. Zelensky issues a veiled threat that he and his band of military, I don't even think he's got one, will destabilize Europe if weapons aren't given. He's threatening Europe, really? I thought he was asking Europe. Where's William on this one? So this is something me and William might discuss tomorrow. Because why would he threaten Europe? And what does NATO think of this? And this came out just this afternoon. The article really doesn't specify much. It's just that if they don't start helping him and start putting their military on the line and coming over and helping, that he might destabilize Europe when they're done with Russia. And right in the midst of NATO preparing for the biggest military exercise since the Cold War. I mean, isn't Zelensky, he should appreciate what NATO's doing for him, what the United States is doing, everybody that swooped in to help him. Just like, when it was Syria, when ISIS went to Syria, everybody went to Syria to help. And it seems like NATO and all of the European countries over there swooped in to help Zelensky. And he's got nerve to say, if you don't put military on the borders and you don't start helping me fight, I'm going to destabilize you when I'm done with Russia. Really? Where's that in the news? And I happen to find it in a little corner. Yeah, of Associated Press. And not only that, but let's see who else had it. Let me see. Zero Hedge. And get this. He's also complaining the West didn't provide enough weapons in a timely fashion. Well, we gave them 15 tanks right off and a bunch of ammunition and guns. And you know what? Those tanks were taken. They were taken away from them. And hey, okay, send me more, send me more. When is NATO and when are we going to get fed up with Zelensky and call him out for what he is, a fascist Nazi? Why do you think the people in Donbass and those other independent countries with a mixture between Ukraine and Russia, where they're married and they have Russian babies, Russian Ukrainian babies that Ukraine want to kill? Why should they submit to Zelensky? And they are even calling him a fascist and said that Poland and Germany, and they're saying the same thing I have told you, that they, after the World War II, they came down, they started taking over. I don't know how many times I told you Ukraine was, I call them the crybabies, because they went down there, they established, and then all of a sudden Russia was there to bug them. They ran up and said, hey, Europe and Germany and Poland, you need to help me, and they did. Now, when they were trying to take over, they ran over to Russia and said, Russia, help us, help us. They're coming to take over. Russia would help. And this went on, folks, for decades after the war. And here we are today. Help, help. Russia. When we finally get Russia off their backs and Germany and Poland said they're moving in. Are they going to say, help, NATO, Russia? We just don't know. They have been crying all these decades. Wow. All right. I'm going to move on. Heck, I might end early today. And now I might talk about this with Lee on Thursday, because New York City wants to slash, or the police department up there, to have more money for the illegals. Why not the other way around? Why not slash the funding for the illegals for our police department up there? And Adam says we're getting 10,000, I think a week, he said, or a month. They're still coming. And he says, and it's Abbott's fault. He's sending them up here. No. Now, I have my friend down in Tijuana, and I told her, go to the border, find out if they're just putting them, they're saying, okay, this group of people has to go here, and this group will go over here. And no, they have them lined up for sanctuary cities. And did they pick where they want to go? Do you want to go to, I think one is in Seattle, LA. I think Sacramento is one. Denver, Colorado. New York, Washington, D.C. Florida is in there. And they choose the bus to get on. Is that Abbott gathering people up and forcing them to go up there? No. Mayor Adams needs to address this administration and Mayorkas and say enough is enough. Until these governors of sanctuary cities start standing up for their own people, because what are the taxes going to rise to for that city through the mayor, for local taxes? How much is it going to go up for your state taxes? Because they'll add them. Don't vote for any taxes. Now, Sarah Huckabee's trying to drop ours, I think, 2 points. I'm sorry. Here, why can't I got to get a drink? I'm sorry. Why can't our states start dropping our taxes? If Sarah Huckabee can do it here, why can't we do this across the board in all of the states? Because Arkansas, where we have rising prices, Boy, we got the rising prices. We got everything here like everyone else. We just don't have as bad as Democrat states. Now, where I come from in California, I'm just amazed that the people haven't risen up and said enough is enough, because they're talking reparations, they're talking all of this that would cause the taxes to go up. I mean, do they want 75, 80, 90% of their checks going to the state? Boy, um, well, Mary, there you go. She pays 120 in taxes every 2 weeks. And I know it's worse for others. My granddaughter that's working, she says, wow, they sure take a big chunk. Where does that go? And I said, well, it goes to the state, it goes to the feds. And she said, what for? And I said, I told her illegal aliens. And she looked at the look on her face. She was like, what? Why? I was like, I'm teasing, I'm teasing. And then I got to thinking about, no, I'm not teasing. Because the more we bring them in, the more we're going to have to take care of them. I understand families want to come up here, and that, they come from corrupted gang, war, food shortages, sicknesses, not enough hospitals, or very poor hospitals. They're living on the streets. Why not come up? I mean, any of us would do that. If things went bad here and we were all starving and Canada said, come up here, we'll take care of you, you better believe we'd all be flocking up there. But there's a difference when you want to take care of a family. But don't come up here, take their kids away, have their kids disappear, and then throw them on the streets of a sanctuary city. How fair is that? I mean, for the ones that are up here that have ulterior motives, well, they deserve it. They deserve not to have nothing, and they deserve to be the way they are. But folks, when I have been looking at this since Obama, and when there are men, and there's like 100 men and like 2 women in a camp. Where's the women and the children in this? And you got to wonder, the men left. Now I know a man will leave his home to go look for something to be able to take care of his family with. But a 15-year-old, a 16-year-old, they're all in between 15 and 25. You can't tell me they've got a family already they need to take care of, unless it's mom and dad. This is so illegal. This is so wrong. And what is the problem with asking Mexico to build a wall? If Mexico built the wall, what could this administration or Mayorkas do? And I'm already starting to figure out who to send emails to in Mexico City, to ask them, can you build a wall? They don't want it. They don't want the cartel. They're fighting the cartel. We're fighting the cartel. The only thing is it pushes the cartel back to Mexico. Now, are we willing to send our forces to the border? Could this be the next war? We're looking at Taiwan. Could we be going to war with ISIS or a Mexican cartel on our own borders in the next 5 to 10 years? It's, according to a lot of generals, I think McGregor, it's plausible that by 2027 we could be looking at a war on our own borders. Is this why this administration does not want to put up a wall? And why? Because even during Fast and Furious, and this is something me and Lee's going to talk about, even during Fast and Furious, we were so into helping the cartel, the Obama administration. And they said, oh, we're the ones shipping the guns. And they still hear this, folks. All the guns are coming from here. Well, then stop it. And why do they not have serial numbers? The only way is for someone to sit down and saw them off. And what they're saying, these are brand new, pristine guns. That is something that a government does to not be able to. I mean, because if they're going to be used in the service, they don't need the numbers. So this is a lot to think about over the next 3-4 years of where we will we be in 4 years. There's and I thought Taiwan, China could drag this out for 10 years if they want. China's going to act when China wants to. Russia gets pissed off enough, they'll take out Ukraine. But what about what we're seeing on our borders where we are building up? They have tanks. They have missiles. In fact, the gang's got missiles now. And they're coming up from the border. They're coming up from the cartel. So the cartel now has military equipment to have a war with the United States. And they're building up and they're building up. And Mayorkas is letting them, as well as this administration. They're turning their backs and they think if they ignore it, it'll go away. Or, like they did during Fast and Furious, are they giving them the military equipment, the guns, and the ammunition? And why? Why? Crooked. That's the corruption that was going on in Ukraine. That's the corruption you see in the third world country. And we're allowing it here. Why? Because 50% of this country says, yeah, let's be corrupt. The other 50% says, we're God-fearing Christians, and we love our country, we love our flag, we love our anthems, and we think about 9/11 as the worst that we've ever seen. And the other half, well, they giggle about it, and he goes to Vietnam, and Mr. Peters and his buddies have corrupted this country so badly. How much money did the Biden family get from us, the taxpayers? How much did they use to make money? How many did they funnel bank to bank to bank, foundation to foundation to foundation? And with the cover-up at the FBI and the CIA, the Department of Justice, granted, folks, we got to stop having a president put in who runs the FBI and Department of Justice and the State Department. That should be something that is decided of Congress and Senate. We don't need a crooked president putting in people to protect what he is doing wrong. So, all right, folks, that's it for today. I could probably keep going because I love y'all so much and want to tell you guys so much. But, we got me and William tomorrow. Hear that puppy? Yeah, that's the puppy. Tomorrow we have World War III. And a great show today. Flamingos. Yeah, Karen, flamingos. And she's going to throw more popcorn at me. Go back and watch the show earlier. Great show. And come on back to, boy, he's noisy. Now he's yiping. And boy, I got everything padded in here to try to muffle all that. I'm putting more and more stuff to muffle their barking. Anyway, so come on back, and then we have the show with Lee, and then I think I'm going to do a separate show on Friday for trivia. I got an opening for it. I've been working on it. And so we just might have 3 separate shows on Fridays. So come on back, share and subscribe. Tell your friends about us. We got a lot to learn. We got a lot to learn about our history and corruption. And, maybe we have closed our own eyes to what has happened in our own lifespan. I know I have. And, I'm waking up every day and saying, I can't believe they did this to us. Really, there are people out there that are this evil. There are. Okay, folks, subscribe and hit the like button and ring my bell. And we will see you all tomorrow. Have a wonderful Tuesday, folks. And, go back and watch the show. And then go on back and watch the funny post. Bye-bye, folks.